Hello everybody, welcome to another detailed gun review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Taurus Model 66 Silhouette. Now before I get started properly and have a look at the gun in detail, I should probably mention for any people that aren't in the UK, or maybe those of you in the UK that aren't sure about how this works, how you're able to own handguns like this in the UK. As you can see, it's got an extension on the back and it's got a very long barrel. And the idea is that conventional handguns under this size, so under 30cm barrel and a 60cm overall length, they are prohibited weapons. Cartridge firing guns under that length are prohibited weapons and they come under Section 5 authority. However, any handgun that exceeds that length and meets the other requirements for a conventional Section 1 firearm can be owned. So the minimum barrel is 300mm, and that's about 12 inches, which is what we've got here. And the overall length has to be 24 inches or 600mm. So for a quick comparison, this is my Chiappa Model 1892. Let's sort of line it up. You can see that it's a little bit shorter than a short rifle, but you see what I mean about the overall length being similar to a rifle. And I think that the whole idea of this is it limits its concealability. It's not the kind of thing that you can stick in your car's glove box. That's the idea. Of course, we know that criminals don't follow rules, so I don't think it's helpful in the slightest, but those are the rules and I'm going to follow them. So here you go, there's a carbine, nearly as long as that. And just another frame of reference, this is a suppressed Ruger 1022, and that's, yeah, it's not really that much longer really. So yeah, it's a long gun. I think that much is clear. So while we're on the subject of the UK laws, as I'm sure a lot of you know, the only semi-automatic guns you're allowed, such as this Ruger 1022, are 22 rimfire, and that includes 22 Magnum, 22 short, all the 22 rimfire cartridges you can have as a semi-auto, like my 1022 here. However, manually repeating guns, such as my Chiappa Winchester, and manually indexing repeating guns, which I think is essentially a double-action revolver, something that is not semi-automatic, because there are no reciprocating parts reloading the gun. It's simply indexing the next chamber. Those are okay to have in any caliber you like, as long as you can justify it to your local authority. So this particular one is in 357 Magnum, and it is a double-action, single-action revolver. Now, as you might have noticed, compared to most UK Spec Taurus revolvers, this one is different. And that's because, from the factory, it has a blued finish, which I absolutely love. Not a fan of those stainless ones. Nearly everybody that has one of these has got a stainless one. I've never seen another blued one in person. A couple of things I like about this, and I should say that I called it the Taurus Model 66 Silhouette, and that is Taurus's name for it. The other one, which is very similar, which most people have, is called the Hunter. And the Hunter is more commonly seen with the stainless finish. It has a ventilated top rib that allows you to put a scope or rail mount on the top there. And it has a sort of a bead blast looking kind of dull stainless finish with, I think, stainless controls. I think that the hammer and the trigger are just a stainless finish. Whereas this one, which is the Silhouette, is a more traditional looking one. So you've got the blued finish, and I think you could get this in stainless as well, but you more commonly see the Silhouette in blue and the Hunter in the stainless. It doesn't have the ventilated top rib. As I said, it's a more traditional looking revolver, which I really like. I'm never going to put a scope on it. Even if I wanted to, you can get ones that add a rail instead of the rear sight, so I don't think it's a big issue. I think it looks a lot cleaner. And you also get a colour case hardened, or just a case hardened really, trigger and hammer, like on a Smith & Wesson revolver, which I think is really nice. Now, these guns were sold in the United States and possibly other markets. but of course the 12-inch barrel isn't all that popular and certainly not necessary in most countries. So you're mostly going to see Model 66s with 6-inch barrels like that, maybe 4-inch. But I've got the 12, that's the minimum I can have. Also worth noting that they do of course come with the classic Taurus rubber grip, which is here. It's already got the hole in the back for the shoulder, not the shoulder brace, for the balance rod or whatever you want to call it, the extension rod. And these aren't actually bad grips. They're surprisingly comfortable actually. When I first got this gun, the first thing I had in mind when I bought this gun was let's get the grips off. When I actually had a chance to handle it, these are quite nice. But a couple of things I don't like. They're a little bit too rubbery. They kind of feel a little bit gooey to me. Almost like tarmac that's, you know, that's sort of melted a bit in the sun. It's kind of a little bit tacky almost. And I just don't really like the look of them. They're kind of blobby. They're a bit generic. They just look kind of cheap to me. Maybe that's just like a prejudice thing because it says Taurus on it. I don't know. Something about these I didn't really like. So anyway, I swapped them very quickly for the Hogue grips. And for anyone wanting to swap them out, make sure that you get Hogue grips that fit a square butt, because unlike a lot of modern revolvers with a round butt, this is a square butt model, which is necessary for attaching the rod. The grips went on just fine, although the fit isn't as good as I've seen on some other Hogue grips. There's a bit awkward. There's a kind of a little bit of a gap, and there's also a gap at the bottom there. As you can see, they're not perfect, but they're close enough to be comfortable shooting it. So yeah, nice. I like these grips. I'm not crazy about finger grooves, and this has some quite aggressive finger grooves, but I've always found these Hogue monogrips quite comfortable, and I think it looks cool as well. I think that looks really good. Now, while we're talking about the hole for the balance rod in the grips, let's actually have a look at that. Originally, these guns came with I don't really know how to describe it. I suppose it's like an arm brace. It looks like a little basket. You get the rod, and then it splits out. It actually comes off to one side because it's meant for a right-handed shooter. It comes off, and it's got a little kind of basket tray bit that goes into your forearm. So you can kind of rest that in your forearm. It kind of balances out the weight of the long barrel. Of course, these don't look very good. And it's a real shame to have a nice, slim, slender gun like a revolver and have this big sort of basket thing on the back, because it's actually very thick because it's meant to go around your forearm. So the previous owner, I haven't had this from new, I only got it last week. And I believe these guns were brought in about 2000. So probably around 20 years old. Whoever owned this before me either removed the rod entirely, of course a gunsmith would have done it, removed the rod and put a new one on, or just cut it and then added this thing on the back. But it's got a weight on the back to balance the weight out a little bit. It's just a bit of steel that's been turned kind of rough. It's not ideal. I would have made a better one than that. And then the rod itself, he's put some heat shrink tubing on it, as you can see from the markings underneath, which I thought was a bit silly. Like, why would you do that? It's got these weird kind of bulges in it. It doesn't look great. But actually, when you're holding it and that's rubbing against, that's kind of contacting your wrist, it is nicer to have a rubberized soft surface rather than the metal rubbing against you. And it's not like cold or anything. It's kind of comfortable. And I've got to say that as somebody that has shot a number of conventional revolvers whenever I've been in the States, this isn't as unbalanced and unwieldy as I thought. I thought that this would just be a bit of a gimmick, you know, just a kind of almost like a little taste of what a real revolver would be like to shoot. But actually, you quite soon forget about this when you're shooting. And the gun does balance surprisingly well, despite that long barrel. It really isn't that heavy. Now, just in case anyone out there is concerned, let's quickly get the cylinder open and just confirm for you all that it is, of course, empty. And while we're having a look in the cylinder, let's have a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So just like a Smith & Wesson 686 Plus, this is pretty much the same size. It's pretty much the Taurus equivalent of a Smith & Wesson 686. This has a 7-shot cylinder, which is cool. Of course, it does mean that if you've got lots of speed loaders and that kind of thing, you will need to get some new ones. I have some of those on the way. Might do a little video showing you those when they're here. I'm trying to think of what HKS call it. I think it's the HKS 587-A or something like that, but it is a 7-shot speed loader made for the Smith & Wesson and the Taurus 7-shot revolvers. So that's cool. 7 shots, so you get one more than you'd usually get with this kind of gun. Got your ejector there. Very smooth. I think it's worth noting that some of these Taurus revolvers have been beaten up by competition shooters that have put thousands of rounds through them, and they don't function all that well anymore. And quite a few of them that I've seen brand new in shops have also not functioned too well. And of course, these have barely been shot. They just, the quality control can be up and down. I don't know about specific production dates or runs or anything like that, which are bad, but I have come across some that have quite poor triggers, and even things like the ejector rod isn't smooth, whether it's bent or whether there's a burr inside or something. Oh, a little bit loose. But this gun, which, as I said, is about 20 years old, these are quite early Taurus imports. It is very smooth. Everything is very, very smooth on this gun. Like I said, we're definitely empty, so let's just give the trigger a go. Of course, it's a double action, single action. Indexes nicely. Timing is good. The lockup isn't as tight as I've experienced on some guns. There's a little bit of play, a tiny amount. It's not like a classic Smith & Wesson, but I mean, it's okay. It works. Yeah, single action is really excellent, and we can actually see the nice case hardening on the trigger there. Also note that there isn't a lock. Some of the newer ones of these have got a little lock that you can lock with a key in there to make the gun safe when you're storing it. This doesn't have that, which is quite nice. There aren't any locks anywhere on this. It is purely up to you to not pull the trigger when you don't want to. Back to the trigger. A very, very light single action. There is no creep, there is no over travel. This is a really good trigger. Unfortunately, I don't have a trigger gauge to actually measure it, but I was really impressed with quite how light this is. It's much lighter than any of my rifles. Really good trigger. Double action is very good as well. No stacking. It just rolls straight back. It's pretty much the same consistency, the same weight throughout the pull. Maybe a little bit of stacking, but it's very clean, crisp. And I can actually prove how good the trigger on this is, because I have 2 targets here. And these were at 15 yards, which isn't a huge distance considering the length of the barrel, but I only shoot at a very short range. So anyway, let's have a look at these 2 targets. Now, one of these is single action, and one of them is double action. And I admit neither of these are very impressive, but this was my first time shooting this gun. It was the first time I've shot a handgun in a very long time. This one was the single action. So not really much of a group, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just fired 5 shots. That was single action. And then I tried it in double action. Pulling the trigger nice and slowly, controlling it, feeling when it was going to break, and just doing the trigger nice and slow. Literally identical accuracy. This is not the kind of thing where the single action is lovely, but the double action puts you all over the place. Really impressed with the trigger on this. It's possible that it could have been worked on at some point. I'm not saying that if you go out and buy a Taurus, it's going to have a great trigger, but I'm saying that this one, an older Model 66 Silhouette, this has got a really good trigger on it. So while we're on the subject of accuracy and shooting, let's have a look at another one, which I was pleased with. Now, this is 25 meters. This is as far as I can shoot at my local club. This was resting the grip on the bench, both hands, single action. So I wasn't actually resting the barrel on a rest. I was just kind of resting the butt and the extension on the bench, taking my time, and there you go. Let's have a quick measure. So that little group there is about an inch, a little bit less than an inch for those 4 shots, and then one of them I threw off a little bit. But as you can see, this has got some potential for really good accuracy. I mean, based on that little group there, you could consider this a 4 MOA gun, I suppose. Might just mean luck, I don't know. But yeah, I'm really happy with the way this shoots, except for one thing. And that is, with the ammunition I've been using, I've been getting excessive leading in the forcing cone, spraying out the side, on the front of the cylinder as well. This is quite a dirty gun to shoot. I'm not sure if it's anything to do with the timing. As I said, the lockup is quite good, but it's possible that maybe it's slightly out of time and it's shaving off a bit of lead on the way out. I'm not sure. It could just be down to the ammunition. It's worth saying that all of the leading I've had, the worst leading, has been using these Magtech 38 Special loads. So perhaps it's just the nature of the pure lead bullets. Maybe it's the way that they are sized. Maybe it's the size of the force and cone compared to the rifling. There are so many different variables that can lead to leading on a revolver. I just haven't tried enough different loads to really see what's going on. It's worth noting that these Magtechs are pretty good. Though the accuracy I've shown here, that group was with the Magtech 38 Specials. So some people will say that the 38s are less accurate than the full Magnum loads. Perhaps, but I can shoot pretty well with these, so nice light shooting. I'll just stick to these. The club sells these very cheap. Obviously, compared to US prices, I don't know how much they go for over there, but I mean, these cost like £14 a box at my club, which seemed very cheap to me. So I mostly shoot the 38 Special. I've also shot a few PPU 357 Magnums. These are flat jacketed bullets. Worth noting that these are hot, as in fast. I haven't actually chronographed them, but when I looked on the website, they reckon that out of a 10-inch barrel, you should be getting about 1600 feet per second. So I think out of this 12-inch, it could be even hotter. I mean, that's nearing like 1,000 foot-pounds of energy. You can really feel it. This is hot stuff. Really like a little cannon, this thing. I know it's compared to some proper big bore revolvers, it doesn't sound like much, but yeah, those are coming out quickly. And I reckon it'd be very flat shooting. I think you could probably shoot silhouettes at 100 yards, as the name would suggest, the Taurus Model 66 silhouette. I reckon you could do some pretty good long-range shooting with this. So we've spoken about performance and wanted to cover that, of course. What else can we talk about? Give you a look over the gun, have a look at the markings. Not many markings. 357 Magnum on the side there. Got serial number, made in Brazil. Taurus logo there, which is covered up by these Hogue monogrips. Kind of cover that bit. I don't know why they do that. I suppose they would do it on both sides, but then it would impede the speed loader going in. So that's what's going on there. And you've got the Taurus logo on the barrel. Really nice finish on this. It's worth noting that it isn't a traditional deep, dark kind of blue. It's more of like almost like a black chrome, I would call it. It's not really a proper blue colour. I'm not sure if you'll see this in the light. But as you can see there, it almost looks like a dark chrome. I think it's really nice. I think it's a really good looking gun, despite the ungainly proportions. Let's have a quick talk about the sights, because of course the sights are what perhaps have allowed me to get some good accuracy out of it. They are fully adjustable on the rear. As you can see, you've got windage and elevation. The only thing I don't like is I'm quite used to shooting the traditional Smith & Wesson sights with a little white outline, and all the sights on this are completely plain. So the front is just there's no insert, there's no dot or anything. It is just a metal post. I'll give you a quick picture of the sight. All right, let's see if I can show you the sight picture. Very big blocky sights. I would say that I would rather have a slightly thinner post. But there you go. It's going to look something like that. So, pretty good. Like I said, a bit thinner would be nicer, because I do find that at 25 yards, it the front post, it just kind of obscures most of the target. It's just up to you to try and hold it in the same place, but you're not really doing very precise shots. So I can understand why people that want to shoot these a little bit further away do end up putting red dots on them, or long eye relief pistol scopes. I'm just going to stick with the iron sights, although I kind of wish there was a different option. Maybe swap these out for something else. I haven't seen any on the market, but maybe they're out there. I think that's one thing that perhaps lets these down, is the aftermarket isn't great. I was trying to find some wood grips, and I know that Hogue does make some wood grips, but I haven't managed to find any. I'll have to order them from Hogue, and they charge like $60 delivery to the UK. And then there's always the worry that they might not fit, because this is an older gun and it's a square butt and it's got the thing out the back. So aftermarket support isn't great. I haven't seen anyone selling sights specifically for this gun. But it's quite good how it is. I'm really impressed actually with the accuracy and the trigger and how well it balances. Like I was saying before, a lot of people see these as just a kind of a gimmick. You might as well just get a rifle if you're going to have a revolver this long. I disagree with that. After owning one now, I can see the value in them, and it does genuinely give you the feeling and the excitement of shooting a handgun, which we can't really enjoy that easily here in the UK. And it's pretty much it's kind of the most firepower that we can get our hands on without going to a semi-auto Section 1 shotgun. I mean, I've got 7 rounds of .357 as fast as I can pull the trigger. That's kind of the fastest shooting, most powerful combo you can get in the UK, legally, that is, without going Section 5, which nobody really can unless you're a dealer. So yeah, pretty cool. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope I haven't missed anything. I mean, it's a revolver, you know, it's pretty simple. Of course, ask me any questions in the comments. Oh, by the way, you might be wondering how much people pay for these, especially in the United States. I mean, it's a Taurus, it's got to be cheap, hasn't it? Well, no. These have gone up a lot in price recently in the UK. Not sure what they were like when they originally came in, but most of the ones you see for sale now are going for the £700, £800 range for the .357 stainless hunter models, which I think is a bit ridiculous. I mean, considering it's a Taurus, I mean, they're good. I kind of wasn't sure about the brand, but I've been really impressed with this gun. But yeah, that kind of money for a Taurus, you're talking well over $1,000 for you lot in the States, which I don't think anyone over there is going to pay $1,000 for a Taurus. This one I got for just shy of £500. So there really aren't that many long barrel revolvers going for that kind of price. I think I got a really good deal. I'm very happy with it. I would, if you see one of these for that kind of price, I would say absolutely go for it. The truth is we don't have that many options for these kind of guns in the UK. It's not as simple as just sticking on a longer barrel and a rod. You can't turn something that is a conventional handgun into one of these. That's not okay. They have to be made like this. So like I said, the options are very limited. But I think if you come across these and the price is pretty good, so, you know, £500, £600, give it a feel, check the trigger, check the lockup, and I think if you get a good one, these are really fantastic guns. I absolutely love shooting this. I can't wait to get to the range and shoot some more. Thanks for watching. Like I said, any questions, put them in the comments, and I'll see you next time for another review.